You arrive at the high marble gateway of the Pincian Hill, just as the final chariot wheels of the evening fade into the distant cobblestones of the Via Flaminia. The sun has long since dipped below the western crest of the Tiber, leaving the sky over Rome a vast, cooling canopy of deep violet and charcoal. Before you, the massive stone walls of the estate rise out of the twilight, their smooth travertine and volcanic tuff looking solid, weathered, and entirely unbothered by the shifting politics of the empire below. It is a sanctuary of quiet power, a place built to offer the rulers of the world a respite from the crowded forums, and tonight it exists only as a silent shelter from the restless energy of the capital. You step forward onto the wide gravel approach, where the white stones have been raked into perfect undulating patterns that catch the faint luminescence of the rising moon. The day's business has concluded. The senators, the architects, and the foreign clients have all retreated to their respective quarters in the valleys below. The air is remarkably crisp, carrying a faint, refreshing chill from the nearby Sabine Hills that makes the warmth of your heavy wool toga feel even more secure. With every step you take toward the interior of the grounds, the raw, chaotic noise of Sabura feels further away, replaced by the order and permanence of hand-hewn columns and manicured greenery. You pass beneath the shadow of a monumental portico. The air shifts immediately as you move under the stone archway. The slight breeze drops away to nothing, cut off by walls that are several spans thick and lined with cooling plaster. The temperature here is more stable, holding a faint, residual stillness that belongs entirely to the interior of the estate. Ahead of you stretches the outer atrium, a wide rectangular court surrounded by a colonnade of dark, heavy granite pillars. The stones beneath your feet are large, smooth flags of grey basalt, laid with such precision that your steps feel completely secure, making only a soft, reassuring friction against your sandals. The silence here is immense and structural. It is not the empty quiet of the open wilderness, but the deliberate, protected silence of a great house at rest. You look across the courtyard toward the low, arched doorways that lead into the residential pavilions. Not a single torch burns in the open air. The only light comes from the high grey vault of the sky, which is slowly turning from violet to an absolute velvety black. You walk slowly, without any urgency, toward the heavy bronze doors of the main library, your movements matching the heavy, unhurried rhythm of the stone walls around you. You place your hand upon the iron ring of the side door. The metal is cool, smooth from decades of use by historians, poets, and emperors alike. The door moves with a slow, heavy groan, its bronze hinges well greased, but holding the weight of centuries. As you step across the threshold, the outer world disappears entirely. You stand within the lower ambulatory of the great vaulted pavilion, the architectural core of the estate. The air inside is completely different from the sharp chill of the hillside. It is thick, heavy, and completely still, carrying the deep, resinous scent of olive oil lamps and the bitter, comforting aroma of burning pine and myrrh that has settled into the very mortar over centuries of luxury. The architecture here is intimate but powerful, a ring of low, heavy brick arches that support the vast coffered ceilings above. The light is minimal, provided only by a few terracotta lamps that float in bronze bowls suspended from the vaults by long bronze chains. The lamps do not flicker. In this draughtless space, their flames are small, steady pyramids of amber light that cast long, soft shadows across the mosaic floor. You look at the pillars that surround you. They are not made of local stone, but of ancient Numidian yellow marble and green Carystian stone, brought across the Mediterranean from the farthest provinces by the builder's command. The columns are smooth, polished to a dull sheen that catches the golden glow of the... You reach out and place your palm against the dark marble of the nearest column. It is cold, dense, and unimaginably solid, holding within its grain the memory of African suns and ancient quarries, now serving as the foundation for this Roman sanctuary. You begin to walk along the curve of the ambulatory, The floor is composed of a complex mosaic depicting geometric labyrinths and stylized laurel wreaths, creating an intricate visual path that draws you in a slow, perpetual circle around the center of the hall. The sound of your footsteps is a low, muffled thud, completely absorbed by the immense volume of the brick and stone structure. There are no voices here. The slaves who tend the fires have completed their tasks, and the guards remain at the out. You are entirely alone in this lower space, a small presence within a vast hive of stone and shadow. As you move along the curved path, you pass small niches, each one holding a lifelike marble bust of an ancient ancestor or a Greek philosopher. The features of the statues are still, their expressions softened by the dim light, casting long geometric shadows that reach toward the upper vault. You feel the immense height of the building rising above you into the darkness, an invisible mountain of architecture that holds the cold night sky aloft. Your breathing slows down, automatically adapting to the heavy, solemn atmosphere of the pavilion. You take a long, deep breath of the scented air, feeling its warmth settle into your lungs, grounding you to the stone beneath your feet. You find a small stone staircase that curves upward within the thickness of the outer wall, leading toward the upper gallery. The steps are narrow and steep, carved from a dark, local tufa that has been worn into gentle hollows in the center of each tread by the passage of generations. The climb is slow and deliberate. With each step you take, the light of the lower ambulatory fades, replaced by the deep, cool shadow of the wall. The air here smells of damp stone and lime mortar, a raw, honest smell that speaks of the labor that built this palace. You emerge onto the upper gallery, and the space opens up around you with a silent, breathtaking grandeur. Here, the architecture is lighter, more elegant, but no, you stand between double tiers of ancient Corinthian columns that look out over a sunken garden terrace. From this height, you can look down into the lower courtyards where you just walked. The oil lamps below look like small stars floating in a dark sea, their light casting immense, arching shadows up onto the high walls of the opposing buildings. You walk toward the western end of the gallery, where a high marble seat sits in absolute solitude. The seat is remarkably simple, constructed from a single block of white Carrara marble, its side panels carved with the image of a resting river god. It sits on a low dais, looking out across the open expanse of the valley toward the dark silhouette of the Capitoline Hill far below. You approach the seat and place your hand upon the armrest. The marble is smooth and completely unadorned, holding a dignity that requires no gold or jewels. You stand beside it, looking out into the vast, silent void of the garden. The view from the gallery is a study in symmetry and order. The geometric paths of the gardens rise up around the central fountains, meeting the natural contours of the hill in perfect alignment. The columns of marble stand like silent sentinels, their capitals carved with intricate acanthus leaves that seem to grow out of the stone in the dim light. You feel the profound isolation of this high space. It is a place designed for an emperor or a scholar to sit alone with his thoughts, elevated above the world of men, closer to the silent heavens. You let the weight of that stillness settle over you, a heavy, protective mantle that isolates you from every care of the outer world. You leave the gallery through a low, narrow doorway that leads into a long, vaulted corridor connecting the residential quarters to the private baths, the cryptoporticus. This corridor is a vast subterranean cut directly into the bedrock of the hill and supported by massive concrete arches that have been reinforced with red bricks over many years. The path is straight and long, stretching out into the darkness ahead of you like a frozen highway. The floor is covered in small, red terracotta bricks, laid in a herringbone pattern, thick and solid, absorbing every vibration of your weight with a dense, grounded silence. To your right, a series of high, narrow slit windows look out over the lower orange groves of the estate. You pause at one of the openings and look out into the night. A light autumn mist has begun to rise from the Tiber Valley, The pale, translucent vapor drifts down through the dark air, silent and slow, settling upon the manicured boxwood hedges of the surrounding gardens. You can see the silhouette of the great dining hall, the triclinium, at the far end of the terrace, its long row of arched windows dark and silent. The mist falls between the trees like a white curtain, blurring the sharp lines of the landscape, turning the estate into a soft, dreamlike world of silver and grey. The wind outside makes a low, hollow sound as it passes across the narrow window opening, a thin whistle that underscores the immense security of the corridor. Inside, the air is cool but completely still, holding the scent of old brick, damp earth, and the faint bitter smell of sulphur from the natural springs that feed the nearby baths. You continue your walk along the subterranean passage, your footsteps marking a slow, steady rhythm that matches the rising mist outside. The length of the corridor creates a sense of detachment, as if you are suspended between two different worlds, the sacred stillness of the high galleries behind you and the domestic quiet of the private rooms ahead. The repetition of the brick arches and the regular intervals of the windows create a hypnotic pattern that slows your thoughts down to it. You are no longer thinking of the day that has passed or the day that will come. You are only aware of the long, straight path, the dark brick, and the silent mist drifting outside the wall. As you reach the end of the subterranean gallery, you enter the library, the great room where the Greek secretaries and scholars labor during the day to copy the ancient texts of philosophy. Tonight, the room is entirely empty, but it holds the deep, intellectual quiet of a sanctuary. Long rows of inlaid wooden cabinets, the armaria, stand in perfect alignment along the walls, their shelves filled with thousands of papyrus rolls wrapped in dark leather cases. The air here is thin and dry, carrying the unmistakable scent of aged reed paper, cedar oil used to repel insects, and the sharp, vinegar smell of soot-based ink. You walk past the reading tables, looking at the brass book weights and the small bone styluses left in their holders. On the walls, heavy woolen tapestries brought from Alexandria hang from bronze rods, their thick folds absorbing what little sound remains in the room. The tapestries depict scenes from the old texts, the voyages of Odysseus, the constellations of Aratus, and the figures of ancient muses sitting under laurel trees. In the dim light of the single oil lamp left burning near the doorway, the figures on the tapestries look alive but perfectly still, frozen in their eternal narratives. The scrolls themselves are kept secure behind latticed wooden doors. You pass one of these cabinets and see the ivory tags, the tituli, that hang from the ends of the rolls, indicating the titles of histories long past. These books contain the memory of the entire Mediterranean world, the geometry of Alexandria, the philosophy of Athens, and the law. They sit in the dark, silent and patient, waiting for the light of the morning. The presence of so much written thought creates a heavy, solemn atmosphere in the room, a feeling that the words themselves are breathing in the dark, maintaining the order of the world while the men who wrote them sleep. You look at a half-rolled manuscript left on a cedar desk near the window. The Greek characters are small, elegant, and black, drawn with a precision that speaks of hours of silent concentration. The first letter of the column depicts a dolphin curling around an anchor, a symbol of slow, deliberate progress. You let your eyes trace the shape of the letters without trying to read their meaning. They are simply patterns of ink on papyrus, a visual rhythm that matches the geometric mosaics of the floors and the regular arches of the corridor. You feel the profound peace of this intellectual sanctuary, a place where knowledge is kept safe from the political chaos of the city outside. You move deeper into the residential quarters of the villa, entering the private study, the cubiculum used by the masters of the house for quiet content. This second chamber is smaller than the library, with lower ceilings and walls lined with vibrant frescoes depicting deep red perspectives of architectural landscapes. A large bronze brazier occupies one entire side of the room, containing the massive embers of charcoal that were lit in the late afternoon. The fire has lost its flame, But the coals remain, a vast bed of pulsing orange and gold that radiates a heavy heat into the room. The warmth here is substantive and comforting, a contrast to the chill of the library and the corridor. It hits your face and hands like a physical embrace, relaxing the muscles of your neck and shoulders. You find a large bronze couch, lined with thick cushions of Egyptian linen and stuffed with dried lavender. You sit down, letting your body sink into the soft, comforting fabric. The frame of the couch is heavy, solid, and entirely silent, holding you in a position of perfect safety. From your position near the fire, you can look out through a small, arched window that looks toward the southern sky. The mist has settled into the valleys, and the sky above is an intense, velvety black. The stars are brilliant, sharpened by the cool night air until they look like points of silver ice. You watch the slow movement of the constellation of the Great Bear as it turns around the polar axis, a celestial guardian moving through the dark without a sound. The room is completely silent, except for the occasional, soft crack of a cooling piece of charcoal as it settles into the pale ash. The sound is tiny, sharp, and comforting, a small reminder of the heat that protects you from the night. The scent of the burning charcoal is clean and unobtrusive, mixing with the smell of the lavender and the fresh linen of your cushions. You watch the orange light of the coals as it pulses, growing slightly brighter with a passing draft, and then fading back into a deep, dark crimson. The rhythm of the fire becomes the rhythm of your own heart, slow, steady, and entirely at rest. Your eyes are drawn back to the window, where the stars have been joined by the pale silver of the moon as it mounts the highest point of the sky. The light streams through the window, opening in a long geometric column, illuminating the dust motes that drift lazily through the warm air of the room. The ancient astronomers believed that the movements of these celestial bodies dictated the humours of the body and the destiny of nations, aligning the microcosmos of the individual with the macrocosmos of the universe. To them, the sky was a perfect temple of geometry and light, designed by a supreme intelligence. You look at the silver light on the marble floor panel, seeing the way it matches the precise shape of the window arch. It is a cold light, but within this warm room, it feels like a silent companion. The order of the sky, the predictable return of the constellations, the steady phases of the moon, provides a profound sense of security. The world outside may change, empires may rise and fall, but the stars will always maintain their courses, moving with a patience that makes human concerns feel small and temporary. You feel the vast weight of the architecture around you, the tons of brick in the vaulted ceilings, the massive concrete foundations of the terraces, the thick stone walls of the villa, all of it designed to create this space of absolute permanence. It is a monument to Roman order, a fortress built against the chaotic fluctuations of the natural world, and you are at the center of that order, protected by the stone, the brick, and the stars. The heat from the brazier continues to radiate through the room, a steady wave of warmth that makes your eyelids feel incredibly heavy. The orange glow of the coals is fading now, replaced by a soft grey ash that slowly covers the fire like a blanket. The silver light of the moon moves across the floor, a slow and silent shadow that marks the passage of the hours you no longer need to keep. You close your eyes, and in the darkness, the image of the great vaulted pavilion remains, a solid geometric shape that anchors your mind to the earth. You do not stand, but you let your mind wander back through the paths you have taken, moving deeper into the internal map of the estate. You see the long subterranean corridor, the silent desks of the library, the ancient columns of marble, and the white stone seat sitting in the high gallery. Each space is a layer of protection, a concentric ring of silence that isolates you further from the outer world. The busy streets of Rome are a distant memory now, a place that exists somewhere beyond the heavy gates, but has no reality here in the warmth of the interior. The silence of the estate has become your own silence. It is not an empty absence of sound, but a heavy presence of peace that fills the spaces between your breaths. You hear the deep, internal humming of the villa, the way the stones settle into the bed, the way the brick contracts in the cool night air, the way the draft moves through the high vaults. It is a continuous, low-frequency sound that has no beginning and no end, a lullaby of structural permanence that has played for generations. You feel your breathing slow even further, reaching a depth that is completely effortless. In, out, slow. The warmth of the linen, the scent of the lavender, and the memory of the burning pine all merge into a single sensation of total safety. There is nothing left to observe. There is nothing left to calculate. The scrolls are closed in their cabinets. The ink is dry in the wells. The marble seats sit empty in the dark galleries. The world is in order. The city is asleep, and the stars are keeping watch. The last fragments of your awareness begin to settle, like the grey ash that is slowly covering the remaining coals of the brazier. The silver light of the moon has moved past the window, leaving the room in a deep, uniform shadow that is soft and inviting. The darkness does not hide the world. It simply removes the need to look. Your body rests exactly as it is, without tension, supported completely by the heavy bronze couch and the soft cushions beneath you. The sense of time has disappeared entirely from your mind. There is no thought of the morning that will come, no memory of the day that has passed. There is only this present moment of absolute still, complete, unchanged. The memory of the city, the long walk, and the black letters on the papyrus, all of it has softened into something that no longer needs to be held. It exists somewhere beyond this room, but it does not return to disturb your rest. There is nothing to revisit. There is nothing to continue. Everything has already resolved into the quiet of the night. The rise and fall of your chest is the only movement left in the world, rhythmic pulse that matches the slow rotation of the stars around the polar axis. You breathe in the warmth. You breathe out the day. You breathe in the silence. You breathe out the thoughts. The stone holds you. The brick protects you. The dark surrounds you. There is no effort in this transition, no decision to be made, no action. It is simply a quiet settling, a slow dissolving of the last thread of awareness into the vast protective dark of the villa. The galleries are silent, the halls are still, the gardens are white with mist, and within that stillness, you remain, resting fully, deeply, and eternally in the calm that holds the ancient world exactly as it is. The silver light of the moon continues its slow, majestic arc across the sky, casting the long, geometric shadow of the window frame further across the marble floor. In this deep hour, the warmth of the cubiculum feels entirely absolute, a heavy, protective atmosphere that has completely sealed out the expansive world of the Roman night. You remain motionless on the linen cushions, your hands resting loose and open at your sides, every line of tension in your fingers and palms having long since dissolved into the plush fabric. The silence of the estate has expanded, growing thicker and more permanent as the city below falls into its deepest period of rest. Outside, the autumn mist has settled fully into the valley, swallowing the contours of the campus and the riverbanks until the entire world feels like a vast, unmoving sea of silver grey. Inside, the last glowing core of the charcoal ember disappears beneath a perfect, uniform layer of pale ash. The heat remains, a steady, radiating presence that warming the air without a single sound, wrapping around you like a heavy woolen blanket. Your mind drifts back through the labyrinth of the villa, tracing the path of your journey in reverse. You see the silent library with its rows of closed scrolls, the long concrete arches of the subterranean cryptoporticus, the cold, multi-coloured marble of the great upper ambulatory, and the wide gravel paths that first welcomed you away from the noisy streets of the capital. Each threshold you crossed was a deliberate step away from the world of action, a progressive peeling away of the day's concerns, until nothing was left but the simple, undeniable reality of this quiet room. The rhythm of your breathing, has become completely synchronized with the deep, structural silence of the house. It is a slow, cyclical movement that requires no thought, no effort, and no conscious guidance. A long, gentle inhalation of the lavender-scented warmth. A soft, complete release that leaves your chest perfectly empty. A quiet pause where time ceases to exist. Then, the cycle begins again. The great histories written on the papyrus sheets, the massive military triumphs celebrated in the forums, the intricate laws debated by the Senate, all of it has been reduced to dust and shadow, completely irrelevant to the immense peace of this moment. You are no longer a citizen of Rome, a witness to history, or a traveler in time. You are simply a presence resting at the center of a perfect geometric order, held securely by the brick, the stone, and the distant, unchanged. The darkness in the room is now complete, a soft, velvety blackness that fills every corner and rounds every remaining edge. It does not feel like an empty void, but like a heavy, comforting embrace that has taken the weight of the entire world off your shoulders. Your eyelids are closed, and the last residual images of the silver columns and the marble statues fade away, leaving uniform tranquility behind your lids. The universe continues its slow, grand rotation around the polar axis, carrying the constellations across the sky in a march that has no beginning and no end. But you no longer need to watch the sky. The order is maintained. The sanctuary is secure. The city is asleep. There is nothing left to wait for, nothing left to see, and nothing left to do. You let go of the very last thread of awareness, allowing your mind to detach entirely from the physical world, sinking down, through the quiet layers of the evening, into the deep, restorative, and eternal darkness of a perfect sleep. The deep, rhythmic pulse of your breath continues to anchor you to the center of the dark room, a gentle wave that rises and falls against the total stillness of the villa. The silver column of moonlight has completely vanished from the floor, leaving the space in a uniform, heavy shadow that feels as thick as the ancient volcanic stone supporting the foundations of the estate. The air remains perfectly warm, holding the faint, clean scent of the dying charcoal and the ghost of the lavender cushions, a sensory envelope that keeps the chill of the Roman hills entirely at bay. You feel your awareness expanding slightly, not back into the world of thoughts and words, but deeper into the physical reality of the sanctuary around you. You are aware of the thousands of bricks in the vaulted ceiling above, each one laid by hand, holding the immense structure in a state of perpetual balance. You are aware of the deep roots of the cypress trees outside, gripping the soil of the hill in the dark, completely motionless. The house, the garden, and the earth are all existing in a state of perfect, unhurried companionship, and you are resting at the very core of their alignment. The memories of the day, the distant echo of voices in the forum, the political friction of the courts, the heavy text of the Greek scrolls, have all become like ancient coins dropped into the middle of the sea. They have sunk so far into the depths of your mind that their shapes are blurred, their weight is gone, and they no longer have the power to draw your attention. They belong to a world that has ceased to exist for you, a world that is waiting down in the valley, while you remain suspended here in the high, silent air of the hill. The silence has reached a state of absolute completion. It is no longer just the absence of noise. It is a solid, comforting presence that sits beside you in the dark, a guardian that ensures nothing will disturb the profound rest you have. The continuous, low-frequency hum of the villa, the subtle settling of the mortar, the slow contraction of the timber, has faded into a single, shimmering layer of background awareness that feels like the very sound of the universe at rest. You breathe in the deep, unchanging calm. You breathe out the last shadow of a thought. In. Your limbs feel as heavy and permanent as the bronze frame of the couch beneath you, completely relaxed, entirely surrendered to the pull of the earth. There is no longer any distinction between your body and the room, between your breath and the air, between your spirit and the quiet evening. You have become a part of the architecture of the night, a silent stone in the great temple of the stars above continue their silent, eternal march across the meridian, marking the passage of hours that have no meaning within these walls. The order of the cosmos is secure, the gates of the estate are locked, and the capital of the world is perfectly asleep. There is nothing left to consider, nothing left to remember, and nothing left to hold on to. You let the last, faint glimmer of consciousness dissolve entirely into the dark, slipping away from the world of form and time, drifting down into the deep, restorative, and infinite embrace of a perfect, dreamless sleep. The deep, rhythmic pulse of your breath remains the only movement in the absolute dark, a soft, liquid wave that rises and falls against the total stillness of the Roman night. The last warmth of the brazier has settled into a steady, invisible presence, holding the room in a perfect equilibrium that keeps the outer world completely distant. The air is clear and thick with the scent of ancient cedar and the cooling earth of the gardens outside, a sensory cocoon that isolates you from the vast, sprawling empire sleeping below the hill. You can feel the immense solidity of the villa all around you, the massive brick vaults, the heavy travertine doorways, the deep concrete foundations that have anchored this structure to the ridge for generations. Every stone and every timber has settled into its final place for the night, existing in a state of quiet, unhurried permanence. You are resting at the very core of this architectural sanctuary, held securely by the strength of the walls and the protective silence of the estate. The details of your journey through the villa, the high galleries, the long subterranean passages, the rows of silent papyrus scrolls, have all faded into a soft, indistinct memory, like words written on water. The ambitions of the forum, the complex debates of the Senate, and the heavy texts of the histories no longer hold any weight in your mind. They have been left behind in the valleys, completely irrelevant to the profound, uncomplicated reality of this dark chamber. The silence has become absolute, a heavy, velvet curtain that has dropped over your thoughts, leaving your mind completely empty and still. The low, structural hum of the house, the microscopic settling of the masonry, the slow breathing of the gardens has merged into a single, shimmering layer of awareness that feels like the very pulse of the earth at rest. You breathe in the deep, protective quiet. You breathe out the final, fleeting phantom of a thought. In. Your limbs are completely relaxed, feeling as heavy and immutable as the stone sculptures that guard the outer courtyards. You have entirely surrendered your weight to the linen cushions, letting go of the need to move, the need to choose, and the need to hold on to the world. There is no longer any boundary between your presence and the darkness of the room. You have become a part of the architecture of the evening, a silent element in the grand Roman night. The stars above continue their slow, silent rotation around the northern pole, maintaining the ancient, clockwork order of the cosmos. The gates of the estate are barred, the paths are empty, and the capital of the world is surrendered to the dark. There is nothing left to observe, nothing left to anticipate, and nothing left to do. You let the last, faint glimmer of your consciousness dissolve completely into the shadows, slipping effortlessly away from the passage of time, drifting down into the deep, restorative, and infinite embrace of a perfect, dreamless sleep. The absolute stillness of the Roman night remains unbroken, a vast and velvet weight that has completely settled into every corner of the deep, rhythmic wave of your breath is the only indicator of time passing, a slow and silent clock that requires no effort, no thought, and no conscious guidance. The warmth from the buried coals has become a permanent feature of the air, a soft, invisible blanket that isolates your body from the crisp autumn mist drifting across the Pincian Hill outside. You feel a profound sense of rootedness, as though your presence has fused completely with the heavy, hand-pressed bricks and the dense volcanic mortar of the villa's foundations. The architecture around you is a fortress of quiet permanence. It has held the weight of emperors and scholars, and tonight, it holds your total surrender to rest. The gardens outside are completely silent. The orange trees and cypress boughs standing motionless under the watch of the stars, their roots drinking from the deep, cool earth in the dark. Every lingering echo of the city below has been thoroughly washed away. The chaotic energy of the Subura, the political tensions of the Capitoline, and the intricate Greek lettering of the library scrolls have all dissolved into a distant, faded grey, like ink spilled into a deep river. They belong to a world of action that has ceased to exist for you. There are no positions to maintain, no decisions to evaluate, and no histories to balance. The Empire is safe, the gates are barred, and the day is entirely finished. The silence has reached its ultimate depth, a thick, comforting presence that wraps around you, guaranteeing that the sanctuary will remain undisturbed. The tiny, microscopic sounds of the house, the slow cooling of the brick, the gentle settlement of the stone, have all blurred into a single, low-frequency hum that acts structural lullaby. You breathe in the deep, unmoving dark. You breathe out the last, faint ripple of awareness. In. Out. Your limbs are as heavy and still as the diorite and marble statues in the galleries, completely relaxed, entirely giving over their weight to the soft linen cushions. The boundaries of your physical self have softened until you are no longer just an observer in the room. You are the room itself. You are the cool stone floor, the warm air, the protective shadow, and the ancient hill. The stars above continue their slow, silent march across the dark meridian, maintaining the perfect geometric order of the cosmos. The universe is turning exactly as it should, without your help, without your worry. There is nothing left to wait for, nothing left to see, and nothing left to hold. You let the very last thread of your consciousness slip away into the shadows, drifting down past the layers of form and time, sinking effortlessly into the deep, restorative and infinite darkness of a perfect, ancient sleep. The absolute stillness of the Roman night remains completely unbroken, a vast and velvet weight that has settled into every corner of the cubiculum. The deep, rhythmic wave of your breath is the only indicator of time passing, a slow and silent clock that requires no effort, no thought, and no conscious guidance. The warmth from the buried coals has become a permanent feature of the air, a soft, invisible blanket that isolates your body from the crisp autumn mist drifting across the Pincian Hill. You feel a profound sense of rootedness, as though your presence has fused completely with the heavy hand-pressed bricks and the dense volcanic mortar of the villa's foundations. The architecture around you is a fortress of quiet permanence. It has held the weight of emperors and scholars, and tonight, it holds your total surrender to rest. The gardens outside are completely silent, the orange trees and cypress boughs standing motionless under the watch of the stars, their roots drinking from the deep, cool earth in the dark. Every lingering echo of the city below has been thoroughly washed away. The chaotic energy of the Subura, the political tensions of the Capitoline, and the intricate Greek lettering of the library scrolls have all dissolved into a distant, faded grey, like ink spilled into a deep river. They belong to a world of action that has ceased to exist for you. There are no positions to maintain, no decisions to evaluate, and no histories to balance. The Empire is safe, the gates are barred, and the day is entirely finished. The silence has reached its ultimate depth, a thick, comforting presence that wraps around you, guaranteeing that the sanctuary will remain undisturbed. The tiny, microscopic sounds of the house, the slow cooling of the brick, the gentle settlement of the stone, have all blurred into a single, low-frequency hum that acts as an eternal, structural lullaby. You breathe in the deep, unmoving dark. You breathe out the last faint ripple of awareness. In. Out. Your limbs are as heavy and still as the diorite and marble statues in the galleries, completely relaxed, entirely giving over their weight to the soft linen cushions. The boundaries of your physical self have softened until you are no longer just an observer in the room. You are the room itself. You are the cool stone floor, the warm air, the protective shadow, and the ancient hill. The stars above continue their slow, silent march across the dark meridian, maintaining the perfect geometric order of the cosmos. The universe is turning exactly as it should, without your help, without your worry. There is nothing left to wait for, nothing left to see, and nothing left to hold. You let the very last thread of your consciousness slip away into the shadows, drifting down past the layers of form and time, sinking effortlessly into the deep, restorative, and infinite darkness of a perfect, ancient